Thank you. All right, so there's a microphone there. You can take it up. So we'd like to welcome Dr. Anil Gupta, and he is working with Empathic Innovations for Closing the Social Technical Gap. He is from the Indian Institute of Management and the Honeybee Network, which I'm sure he'll talk a fair amount about as well. So welcome, and we'd like to get you started.
Namaskar, good morning. I will share with you some of the building blocks over the last 25 years that have helped us shape our own understanding of how people innovate. After an excellent talk by Kanjan, I think my task is easier because I will look at the other end of the knowledge spectrum, which is how do we learn to leverage what people do well. So instead of talking of poor people as sink of our advice, assistance, aid, can we treat them as source of ideas, source of innovations, source of new insights, source of new values. So that's why I don't like the term BOP, because it often focuses on what people don't have, which is economic wealth. So you talk about bottom of the pyramid. They may be at the bottom of economic pyramid, but they are not at the bottom of ethical pyramid. They are not at the bottom of innovation pyramid. They are not at the bottom of values pyramid. So let us talk about things in which they are at the top of the pyramid. This is how the Honeybee Network started. So a nameless, faceless person comes in contact with the network, gets an identity. That's what we do. We walk in different parts of the country. We have Shodhyatras. Every summer we go to the hot places. Winter we go to the cool places. So 35th walk will be in January and in Sikkim. And we try to celebrate creativity at the doorstep of the people who have solved problems through their own genius. And we believe that these innovations that people produce, and also sometimes the outstanding traditional knowledge, can teach us a few things about new heuristics of frugal innovation. And I'll show you some examples of that. One of the most important driver of grassroots innovations or frugal innovation is samvedana. Now, it's a beautiful word in Sanskrit and many Indian languages. Sam means equal. Vedana means pain. When somebody else's pain is felt by me as intensely as that person feels it, it doesn't remain that person's pain. It becomes my pain. Sajanshilta, that is creativity, which is born out of internalizing somebody else's pain, becomes empathetic innovation. So if we can only empathize, then we will not be doing something for others. Please appreciate that. IEEE doesn't have to solve the world's problem. The professionals of IEEE have to solve their own problem, our own pain, our own problems. It is our problem, not their problem, that we live with so much inertia for so long. And I'll share with you one of the most redeeming things that we find in the recent past, in the last few decades, particularly last decade, that children, unlike us, are far less patient with their problems. So I find that very redeeming, that while my generation learned to live with their problems unsolved for so long, children don't want to live with their problems unsolved. And I'll show you many examples of how we can incorporate children as a part of ecosystem of innovation by just listening to them and by leveraging their impatience, which will help us overcome our own inertia, institutionalized inertia. These are the 4 capitals that we try to blend in everything that we do to varying degree. I will not go into detail, but natural capital, of course, was the first one to come about. Social capital and ethical capital are extremely important. Social capital is characterized by the fact that when we use resources, the norms by the group influence their use, and sanctions are from outside, third-party sanction. In ethical capital, sanctions are from within. Nobody outside tells me whether I should be doing this or not. Within myself, question arises, and I feel pained by that question. So sanctions, ethical capital, therefore, is what is self-regulatory capital. It's the most effective capital for leading us on the right path that we wish to. And of course, intellectual capital is the sum total of all exchanges. Intellectual property is a very small part of intellectual capital. What are the key challenges? So instead of beginning with what we have learned, and I would of course do that a little later, I want to begin with what are the challenges we are facing. And Honeybee Network really wants to engage with IEEE membership all over the world. I'm so proud to be here because I think if some of you become the honeybees, which do cross-pollination, which collect nectar from the flowers and flowers don't complain, in fact they attract them, and which don't keep all the honey with themselves, keep some part with them, but share with rest with others. So if some of you, maybe all of you, become honeybees, my job is done. Now, what are the key challenges? The first challenge that we have discovered over the years is that entire farm machinery sector in rural areas, mechanical farm machinery, is devoid of any feedback loop system. No feedback control system. So if I have a plow and I am sowing seeds, and if the soil has different moisture, has a different texture, different structure, and if some seeds fall at 2 inches, some fall at 1.5 inch, some fall at 2.5 inch, I get no feedback. So intuitively, I may sometimes press it harder, sometimes press it later, or if I'm using a tractor-based seed drill, I have no mechanism of adjusting it either automatically or by my action by getting the sensor feedback on this soil as to how to place the seed at the right depth. And that can make so much difference. If it is too deep, tillering will be less, yield will go down. If it is too shallow, lodging may take place. So either way, it can be harmful to the productivity. Just by getting the seed at the right depth, I can improve productivity just by that, but there is no feedback system. So what I'm trying to say is that IEEE must take up not just the disasters that happen once in a while, but disasters which happen every day. The amount of productivity loss that is taking place by not having smartness, by not having intelligence, by not having feedback system in in fact, practically all mechanical devices. You have a grinder, a food processing machine. Naturally, when the process has taken place a little while, the energy required is much less, no feedback system, so it continues to run at the same speed with the same torque. What I'm trying to say is that almost every single farm machinery in developing countries can afford to become better, more energy efficient if there's a control system. We have 800 million mobile phones. In India, around 500 million users. Not one phone has any attachable device by which either I can diagnose the quality of water, whether it has a replicating DNA or RNA or a protein produced by that process, or I can attach a small cap with a UV LED, keep it on the glass of water, and in a few seconds, powered by the mobile phone, water will become pure. It doesn't require a very huge kind of space research. It's a very simple technology. It has not happened. Not because we are not capable. I'm sure in this room, we have some of the best minds of the world here. It is certainly we are capable. Why has it not happened then? Perhaps, as sometimes scholars say, there are interesting problems and there are relevant problems. The interesting problems overtake the relevant ones sometimes. Otherwise, tell me why, how can we explain 500 mobile phones having not one attachable device for any purpose of diagnostics or for the matter treating the water? 60% diseases of our country and maybe most developing countries are waterborne. Just one device of UV LED making water pure will solve the load of disease enormously. One episode of disease wipes away the savings of 5 years of a poor person. Please appreciate that. One adverse episode of health can wipe away the savings of 5 years. Nothing else can change the economy immediately. Nothing can change the lives of the people immediately except by reducing or, if possible, avoiding or preventing those episodes or reducing those episodes. And we can do that. It is possible. Look at the ideas that children have, and I will show you those ideas. Most of them seem to be sensor-based. Our children are looking at all the literature, looking at a lot of new products, but they apply them in the areas where we need to. So we will see them how it happens. One of the important areas that we have identified which Kanjan also highlighted very well, that undergraduate students can be very powerful. I'll share with you a platform. We call it Techpedia, Techpedia, techpedia.in. It started in 2009. Young leader Hiranmai, who leads it, and our Srishti. It has 200,000 engineering projects done by 750,000 students of our country. I was very happy to hear that about 8 million papers are downloaded from IEEE site every month. But still, we haven't done one small thing, which is if we put the final year projects of all these students around the world on a common platform, we will make it impossible for students to do what has been done before. That was our motivation. We didn't want any student to do what has been done before. We wanted the students' solutions or the project that they have done to be available to MSME, micro and small enterprises, so that they can use them. They can't hire them, but they can use their ideas. We wanted them to work on real-life problems. So there is a possibility that we can link formal and informal sector in a very viable manner, and I'm very happy to see the future plans of IEEE, which I'm sure will include, I hope, this agenda of motivating our students to share what they have done in their final year, build upon each other's ideas. Possibly every faculty member should have a goal of at least one class where every student must work with a student of another country, and thereby bring a greater global consciousness about the problems that we have, so that these problems are not developing countries' problems, these are not somebody else's problem, these are our problems, these are my problems, and everybody starts becoming responsible for solving those problems. We will also like to study how heuristics underlying grassroots innovations can teach us a few lessons. How does a frugal innovation emerge? How come two brothers, Mustaq Ahmed and Mehtar Hussain in Assam, develop a 5,000 rupees windmill, bamboo windmill? And what are the questions they ask? They ask two questions which many times we engineers don't ask. They had a windmill which used to pump hand pump to irrigate a small paddy field. They asked a question, is it important to irrigate my paddy field in 4 hours or 40 hours? The answer was, it adds no value if you irrigate it in 4 hours. 40 hours is as good. In fact, slow irrigation is better because less leaching of nutrients, more sustainable. Why do I have to use a lot of horsepower to pump that irrigation water in 4 hours or 2 hours? Wastage, mindset. We have just prejudiced ourselves to think that everything must be done faster. It doesn't add to the value. Nature doesn't want that. Second question they asked, a hand pump has a single valve, so water will come in spurts. Does it matter to the paddy field whether water comes smoothly or in spurts? Doesn't matter really. So he didn't put a gearbox, a most difficult thing to maintain and very costly component, and therefore this windmill was so cost effective, so frugal. Now, what are the heuristics we learn? First, maximizing output per unit of time is not always good. Counterintuitive, but very effective. Nature loves slow things sometimes. It believes that, actually plants need moisture, they don't need water, So we don't need to give so much moisture at so quickly time. It goes waste. Evaporation losses, leaching losses. Second question, a smoother flow is not always better than irregular flow. Water of a hand pump coming in a spurt is as good, actually, if it was coming smoothly. Why do we need to smoothen all flows? Why do we need to maximize the output per unit of time always? Certain cases, yes, we need to do that, not in all cases. Now, these heuristics, which make you to think counterintuitively, are the real gain from grassroots innovation. Forget about artifactual value, forget about other values from this innovation. The heuristics can be very, very powerful, and we'll see how they can happen. We also need to change the institutional environment for thinking about new solutions. For long, we have worked on incubator model. If both domains knowledge is high and if technological platforms are available, incubators work well. Small incremental changes, fine. We know the market, we know the platform, we have to tweak it, we can do that. If both are unknown, the orange segment on the right-hand side, we need to go for sanctuary model. I don't know if it's visible. This is the sanctuary model. The sanctuary model is where chaos is inside, order is outside. In incubator, chaos is outside, order is inside. The future belongs to sanctuaries. Future belongs to chaotic models because as the world becomes more unpredictable, our ways of working will also have to cope with that. Conventional model, therefore, is obsolete. The next point, why do we burden our products and services with non-essential features? Look at this phone. This phone has about 500 or 1,000 features. I use only 5 or 10, but I pay for all the 1,000. Look at Microsoft Word. It has another 500 features. I need 25 maybe, but I'm charged for all the 500 features. I could be asked step by step. You could have a stack-up model. When my needs increase, please meet my wants. But don't make me want things that I don't need. Frugality is a good value, good human value. And therefore, consumption of resources which I don't need and I will not be using for a long time, I'm just hoarding them, doesn't make sense. So how do we avoid the concept of adding too many features, too many functions to a device or solution, which actually people don't need at this moment? When they need, you should give them add-on features. You should give them the possibility of stacking it up so that they can pay as you wish in future when their needs expand. The support for early stages is very, very rare. In our country, at least, I can tell you, no venture capitalist will ever invest in a student idea, never. So I would really urge that we should think of platforms by which student ideas can be invested in. In Kerala, we have had recently a startup village model which has done wonderfully well in investing in nascent ideas. There are very few such ideas available at the moment. How do we bring circularity in the economic system? You see, if you look at the affordability question, many times we say affordability is about the price. So if you have a small sachet of plastic in which you have shampoo, oil, or some other product, sell it in 1 rupee a sachet, you think it is very affordable. Now calculate the cost of collecting those pieces of plastic from thousands of villages in our country. Cost becomes very high now. And yet we call it affordable. The very concept of affordability needs to be redefined. Circularity, that means cradle to cradle, where waste is a product for which use has not yet been found, needs to be deeply embedded in our psyche, in our mindset, in our way of thinking about products and services. And that is not happening as yet. We still are in the old model of life cycle analysis, which is obsolete. We need to, of course, bring these linkages together, which happens by using this metaphor of a stair, which is not to climb up, but to climb into each other's heart. That's what Honeybee Network does through cross-pollination. So how do we link formal and informal sector? And not, again, for patronage purposes, but because informal sector will need or learn something from the informal sector. There are ideas, there are low-cost ways of doing things which we'll learn. There are different ways of exclusion. Exclusion can take place over space. Some regions are difficult to access. Mountains, drought-prone areas, flood-prone areas. These are bypassed by the market forces, by the state. So we know that these are the difficult regions. So when we have to prioritize, we prioritize the problem of those regions. Very clear, no ambiguity, no great research to be done to find out where the poor people who are inaccessible, who are least served are. One of the goals I found in the presentation of IEEE goals was serving the underserved people. We know where they are. Please don't mount new multi-million-dollar research to find out where they are. Sectors, which are the sectors where the value addition is low? That is where the child labor is most. That is where the productivity is least. Wherever productivity is least, child labor will be inevitable. You increase the productivity, child labor goes away. That is a historical example. And given the fact that we got this time 2 valiant warriors against the child trafficking and child labor, got the Nobel Peace Prize, it is very opportune that we pay attention to this problem of improving productivity in the least value-adding enterprises or sector. For example, handloom. This is khadi. Handloom is the second largest sector of employment after agriculture in our country, second largest sector of employment. The value addition rate is very low. Now there's an innovator in Assam, Deepak Bharali, who has developed magnetic bobbins by which the patterns on the handloom can be made much more efficiently, faster, and so on. How can we bring in improvement in jacquard loom, which has not undergone a change for the last 50 years, 70 years? The design has not changed. So there's a lot of need for improving productivity in the handloom sector, of course, apart from the agriculture sector. And these two sectors, if we take care of, very, very, very many poor people have been reached almost everywhere. These sectors are important. Seasons, floods, droughts are the seasons when hailstorms are the season when there is a difficulty among the local communities, social segments, of course, and skills. This is an example of how our societies learn. Now I will share with you various ways in which we learn from grassroots innovators. This is a site in West Bengal, Purulia and Bankura. We were walking there in our Shodhyatra, and we came across these beautiful terracotta horses underlying a tree. So we asked the potters, why did you keep such beautiful horses. Somebody can take them away, somebody can damage them. They said, no, 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 we didn't keep the beautiful ones, we kept the best ones. Why did you keep the best ones? So that when our children walk by this street, they know what the current standard of the best is, they must do better. Open source standards of excellence. This is what the culture tells us. So it is not that poor people are poor in every respect. I like the idea that Kanjan mentioned about aesthetics, beauty, saumyata, as we call it in Sanskrit. The people like beauty. I mean, they would appreciate that. And therefore, there is an important need to recognize that aesthetics can be alienating and aesthetics can be engaging. Depends upon which kind of aesthetics we bring in our products and services. This is another example of how people evolve ecosystems for solving problems. This is from Meghalaya, northeast, Cherrapunji, which has the highest rainfall in the world. So we're walking in a village, Magriat, where this double-decker bridge is. And this bridge is built by pulling the roots of ficus species from two sides of the river. Now a question can be asked, why did they think of making a bridge like this? There are all kinds of bridges in the world. Why did they have to make it like this? Because culture triggered this question. We don't want to do what has been done before. We don't want to have a bridge which will create waste. We want to have a super recyclable, super low entropy solution. And if that has to be done, then this could be one way. Culture led to the question. Next search was for the technology. How do we do that? What are the mechanisms? How do we pull the roots? How long it will take? How do we embed stones in the roots? And then one person cannot do it. You need group action. That's where institutions come in. So if technology is like word, institutions are like grammar, culture is like thesaurus. We need all the three. We need all the three for sustainable outcomes. Any one will not do. And very often, as was rightly mentioned by the speaker before, that we often focus on culture, on technology, less on culture, less on institutions. But we need to understand that. We need to bring in those elements in our curriculum, in our education system, so that engineers would also understand that there is a need to bring all the three vectors together. And of course, these three vectors are very important for taking those solutions to the market, both social and commercial. Innovation, enterprise, investment, and very seldom do we find all the three skills in one person. So what we have learned over the years, that we should not expect every innovator to become an entrepreneur. In fact, very few of them are successful entrepreneurs. An innovator cannot make two things alike. An entrepreneur needs to make batch by batch consistent product. So they are two different people. And so long as we struggle, except few people who are very successful, most innovators are not successful as entrepreneurs. And that's fine. They can be R&D director maybe in a company, but not necessarily the CEO. This is a framework to understand how companies and the informal sector can join hands. Many of you, Catherine works in Cisco, many companies have to ask these questions. You know, open innovation has become a way of life to some extent, but only one aspect of open innovation has become way of life. So you have inside out, how much of knowledge that I have inside, which I share with out. So I like the idea of democratizing knowledge, innovations. How do I share what I have produced with others, that is inside out? How do I get what is outside in? Crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, crowd generating ideas, that is outside in. Or competitions, throwing challenges, all of these are outside in. So when both are high, this one. In Hindi we call it DB, dil bada, dimag bada. The heart is big, the mind is big. Those people who have big heart and big mind can only have high inside out, how outside in. I'm willing to learn from others. I'm also willing to share with them what I know. That is the capability. That task can only be done by people who have large heart and big brain. That cannot be done by people who want low inside out, high outside in, sponges. All the companies want ideas from outside. Never tell the people as to what did they do with the ideas. So let's say I gave a solution to Innocentive into $10,000. The company which got that solution made $10 million. It doesn't tell me that my idea, which they paid for $10,000, actually was worth $10 million. It will give me my self-esteem will go up. I will feel more confident of my ideas, you know. And once my capacity goes up, I will give you better ideas in future. So it is in your interest to build my capacity. But they don't do that. So they are sponges. Take ideas from outside. Sometimes when outside in is low, but inside out is high, pollinator. Tesla shared its patents openly. I was very happy to see that. Inside Out, Pollinator. They realized that if they want to have large number of charging stations, they alone cannot create all those charging stations. Other companies must come into market. They must also make electric cars. They must also then create demand for charging stations. Then the ecosystem will become very rich and very nourished. Good idea. Good idea. We need more pollinators. And of course, we have ostrich, neither willing to learn from outside, nor willing to share. A lot of academics belong to this category. They don't even talk to their neighbor. They talk to only the few people who cite them and they cite them. Is a very different word, unfortunately. Knowledge asymmetry. Knowledge asymmetry could be low or high in formal and informal sector. And synaptic interactions could be low or high. As we know, synaptic interactions in brain produce neural networks. These are different from the normal interactions. So if both are low, we become insular. If both are high, we have an inclusive knowledge system. So how do we create systems which have peer learning but also have inclusive knowledge system? More interactions, high asymmetry. We recognize that people have something to teach us. Only then I will respect that asymmetry. If I believe that they don't know much and I only need to tell them, I am in a patronizing mode, then learning will not take place as well as it can. So let us say, how can grassroots innovations emerge? So first, let me begin with children. And here is an example. Many of you are not sitting properly, so you will have pain in the back. I also have pain in the back. Many of your posture is not correct. So in future, chairs will have sensors. That's what Kulsum Rizvi class 5 suggested. And if you're not pressing all the 5 sensors, sir, thank you for being straight. Your back will be better now. The chair will start bothering you that unless you sit straight, I will not let you work, which is the way we need that because we don't learn. Adults don't learn. And children have figured it out, that adults don't learn. They need to be forced, they need to be coerced to behave properly. Or if there is a computer screen and I've been bending forward rather than sitting properly, the screen will judge my posture, the screen will go off, message will come, please sit properly, otherwise I won't let you work. And my back will become better. Now, this is an idea coming from children, class 5, class 10. When we kept this prototype of a chair with pressure sensors in President's House, every year we have an exhibition in Rashtrapati Bhavan, President's House in New Delhi. It was a great demand for this chair. Everybody wanted to buy this chair. So ST Microelectronics in Delhi is helping us in designing these embedded systems, post-retrofitting design so that we can put in all chairs. This is another example. Shalini, class 8 at that time, found her grandfather, not being able to use walkers on the stair because they don't have adjustable legs. She sent us an idea. National Innovation Foundation got it fabricated, tested. One of our students and I used it because he had a fracture in his leg. And then it was licensed to a company on 24th July. 2 lakh rupees went to the pocket of her bank account for licensing of this, non-exclusive licensing of this technology. She will get 100 rupees, $2 roughly, about every walker when it is sold. 10,000 are planned to be sold in this financial year. Class 8, we call it inverted model of innovation. Children invent, engineers fabricate, companies commercialize. Inverted model of innovation. And this is true for all, it can be true in all countries. Why can't we take children seriously? So let us take another example. Many times in buses in our country, there are no gates. Many times drivers rush and drive the buses. Children or women with a child in their lap fall down because they have not yet boarded the bus properly. Small sensor on the stair. If anybody is on the stair, either getting up or getting down, bus will not start. Simple idea. No child will fall, no woman will fall or no old person will fall from the bus anymore. One simple design, then standards will be developed. No bodybuilder of bus will have buses without gates, not having sensors, so that no accident takes place. I have seen people falling. All of us might have met people in developing countries have seen this problem. We didn't do anything about it, but our children want to do something about it, and that's the wonderful thing about it. Low cost braille printer, not driving without license, mobile-to-mobile charging, very interesting idea. We still don't have this possibility. Many times the phone is down, I want to borrow charge from another person. How do I do that? These kids have thought about it. A lot of innovation ideas, a lot of ideas. This is another idea for a student. And I want to now share with you how students from small towns, small colleges can have big mind. We all have refrigerators in our home. And we all know that refrigerators produce heat. Do you know of any company which uses this heat of compressor? None. No company in the world uses the heat produced by compressor. So Dhruv, from a small engineering college in Gandhinagar, put a heat exchanger around the compressor, put a hot water chamber on the top. Now you can keep things warm in the chamber. When you take the heat away, compressor has to work less. Its life gets extended, and energy consumption goes down by 18%. That is an Indian model of innovation. Less energy consumption, more output, more facility. Retrofitting. Energy crisis, we need to save energy. Why wouldn't this occur to us? Probably because we don't realize that this heat is going waste and therefore needs to be saved and harnessed for more productive use. Look at another example of energy. In Andhra Pradesh, this lady is using, there's a shelf here on the stove. All of us in our kitchen, we have a gas. When we put the vessel on the gas, the heat goes around the vessel. Flue gases go into the atmosphere. Please understand, for all these years, we have not cared about it. And what have the people done? Look at this. 3 shelves above the stove. 3 shelves, different temperature gradients, different utilities. More temperature here, that is used for curing the wood. This is used for trolley in the mountain areas. It is from Meghalaya. So the wood becomes stronger when it is heated. Here, the fuel wood, Cherrapunji, lot of rain, moist wood. You can't cook food if it is not dry. You dry it. Here you dry the cheese, meat for storage purposes. And on the top, a bag of seed for fumigation. Can you imagine? Can we teach them something about energy conservation? Or they can teach us something about energy conservation. The design of kitchens around the world will change if we can use the temperature gradients differently. Yesterday I was at Berkeley talking to the students, and I said, can you imagine? I was taking bath in Tapan's house in the bathroom. So you have a hot water tap and you have a cold water tap. Hot water is very high, so I have to mix cold water. Wasteful, no? Why don't I reduce the temperature to which the water goes up, heating up? I only heat as much as is required. So if I have to heat only 35, 40 degrees centigrade, why do I have to make it 70 and then mix the cold water and bring it down to 35? That's wasteful, isn't it? We never thought about putting a small thermostat in the heating chamber so that I don't have to heat it more than what I need, instead of heating and then cooling it. In every sphere of our life, we are wasting energy, and these are the things that we can learn from these common people. So there are 4 ways in which we learn from innovations: artifactual, metaphorical, heuristic, and gestalt. Gestalt is the whole ecosystem. And it is important to realize that artifactual value is not necessarily the most important value, though it is very important. Many of these ideas. The principle that different temperature gradients can be used for different functional purposes, and therefore I don't have to have only one gradient, one high temperature or low temperature, and reducing it to different needs. I dissipate energy. I don't have to. So we need to bring in circularity, affordability, durability and renewability, and multifunctionality. And the supply chains will also have to be redesigned. Accessibility, affordability, and availability. And it is not necessary sometimes that all the 3 will be fitting in one place. That is where the challenge is. How do we bring them in a proper manner? So dematerialization will become very important in future. Sustainability will be the soul of frugality, and I will share with some more examples of how we have combined these passion with purpose through platforms, bring about performance with the right process. So this is the portal that we have, techpedia.in. And large number of ideas have come about. B12 is an epidemic after the RO system, reverse osmosis system of water cleaning, came in our country. Our faunal diversity of the gut has changed. Almost everybody suffers, vegetarian people suffer from B12 deficiency. The test takes 24 hours. This is a 15-minute test developed by the students of CFTRI Mysore. Microfluid immunosensor. I mean, they test for cancer. It's very interesting heuristic they have used, a student from ISC Bangalore and IIT Kanpur. What they found was that cancerous cell has more potassium, more sodium. Tumor cell have less potassium, more sodium ions, Normal cell has more sodium. The refraction of the light is different in both the cells. Non-invasive way of detecting early stage of cancer. State-of-the-art research, very state-of-the-art. So a lot of ideas are being developed by students. They need mentors. Many of you are very worthy mentors for them. You could deflect their attention to the right direction and guide them, and we can have a very large lab of product development. Imagine 1 million students passing out of our country every year, engineering students. 1% of them get mentored, and they take ideas forward. We will have large number of products coming out in a very affordable manner. We have very serious problem of three-phase electricity system, only phase one. We need single-phase motors. First time they have been able to develop a lot of innovations. When we look at China, we have found we have a very strong honeybee network in China. Outside of India, in 70 countries, we have honeybee network, but strongest is in China. Sometimes they strike the problem at a cheaper end than us. So the farmer there converted a boat into car. So there was a big lake. He had to sell things to the market. He put the motor was already there, put 3 wheels. Now boat becomes car. In our country, a fellow was trying to make car into boat, very costly. One can find a cheaper end of the solution, we can learn. But then there are also cases where both countries, civilizational societies, are trying to find similar solution, rediscovering the wheel. So honeybee network model is when we learn from each other, we democratize knowledge, we share knowledge widely. We don't have to rediscover the wheel. Chinese are also developing cycle hoe. India is also developing cycle hoe. Why? Why do we need to do that? So our president gives award every year. And next year, March 7th to 13th, all of you are invited. There will be a festival of innovation at President's House. Our president hosts innovators. There's a residency program. This year, 5 innovators stayed at President's House as guests of the President of India. There's a big message that our country is giving that way innovation matter. And I'm sure you will like to see how this movement takes forward. Our friend who made this big, famous film, James Cameron, came and spent some months with us, a few hours with us. And I won't be surprised if his next film is about innovation. 3 Idiot had many innovations from our database. I'm looking forward to use of media to create mass consciousness. We have to engage with more and more film producers to bring these ideas of innovation, inclusive innovation, empathy, samvedana in our popular media so that masses get educated. This is an example of how mind to market works. So 6 communities had found solutions for eczema, skin diseases, but each solution was suboptimal. In Srishti Natural Product Lab, they were pooled, and then the product was launched by the company. They get royalty out of this. So we have also a model called a G2G, grassroots to global. Different products have been sold in different continents. And from 62 countries, we got queries. These people figured us out. We didn't know. We didn't reach them. They reached us. And that shows that there's a global market for grassroots innovations. The globalization need not make products of large companies go to the poor. That is the model that we all know about. There can be another model of globalization where we can provide global platforms. IEEE is a global platform. And I'm happy to be here, therefore, that the products and services, ideas of common people can go to the global platforms, nurture our mind, and nourish our soul, and we can then see how to produce markets for them. So this is what Srishti says, give me a place to stand, and I'll move the word upon an Archimedes. And we can perhaps, therefore, by bringing together different kinds of ecosystems, we have Honeybee Network, Srishti, Gyan, and the National Innovation Foundation. If you go to nifindia.org, you will find large number of solutions available from common people, which are available in open access. Many of them, some are IP protected. And we have created 2 new models. One is GTIF, Grassroots Technological Innovation Acquisition Fund. We buy the IP rights from the innovators, make them available at no cost or low cost to small entrepreneurs. So expand the public domain. A small enterprise cannot license a technology at the rate at which licensor may like to give. So we expand a pool of technologies. And I will appeal that we should create a similar pool of licensable technologies in a portfolio, in a basket at IEEE platforms where every professor, every student, every scholar can contribute some of the building blocks, the bricks of innovations in a common pool, and they can be licensed then at no cost or low cost to small entrepreneurs worldwide. That would go a long way in building capacity of the people. We also have technology commons concept, similar to the Creative Commons, but not exactly. People-to-people copying is allowed and encouraged. People-to-people copying is allowed and encouraged. People-to-firm is through licensing. Very simple. No point in filing a case against fellow farmer, a small farmer of 1 acre or 2 acre of land. Nothing is going to come out of that. Why do we create that system? We want people to learn from each other. So that's why we are trying to tweak this model of IP into new ways of doing things, new ways of solving problems. Finally, creativity counts, knowledge matters, innovations transform, and incentives inspire, but not just material incentives, non-material incentives, and not just individual incentives, but also collective incentives. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We're a little bit into the break, but we could take a couple minutes for questions if folks would like.
So both of this morning's speakers talked about open access to inventions, to ideas, to technology, innovations. And Kanjan, you talked about the notion that everything gets published, that you want everything in the public domain, and the image that was shown was a publication such as you might see in a journal. Now, when you actually work with submitting patent applications and trying to get those protected by the USPTO in our case, you know that if you publish it in a journal first, then you're in trouble because you've already made the information publicly available. So you mentioned that there are cases where the innovations are patented and protected. Now, what you do with the license and with the patent once you own it is
we have
secondary.
more than 660 patents filed for the common people and school children. And there are patents granted in US to farmers who are not educated beyond 10th class in mature industry like tractor. And these patents are licensable. We have licensed about 78 technologies to 83 entrepreneurs. Money has gone in the hands of the people. So I'm sure Kanjan will also possibly agree with that idea that yes, you can publish after filing, and you don't prevent them being, paper don't become the prior art. So I'm sure it's possible.
So actually, we don't patent at all. And actually, that's exactly our strategy. We want to put it in the public domain because the freedom to operate is much more important to us than somebody else coming in and locking down that technology. So put it in the public domain, make it prior art, and so then it's open to everybody, and you can still license the know-how. So you can have it both ways.
Well, we do protect, as I said, but we also buy the rights and make them available open access. So we have a blend two systems. But I would very much wish, before I close, that if there are volunteers who would like to join the Honeybee Network, become the cross-pollinator, help us blend the formal-informal sector. That would go a long way in building upon the strength of both the systems. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. All right, folks, we have about a 15-minute break. Thank you for bearing with us as we got started a little bit today. But one change in the program is for those who are interested in the student program, it's not going to be in Salon C, but downstairs in the San Jose Ballroom. And there's also one thing that's not marked here. It's supposed to be Salon L, so if you're wondering where that the track is for water and agriculture, it's in Salon L, which is over here. All right, thank you, folks.